Jackson, you picking up some signals, bro?
I think so. My little radios are going up.
Little radio going crazy.
And I think I spied something new.
Don't worry, we're here. You spying a new friend?
Yeah, spying a new friend.
We're here. Come on in, Matt. We made it.
Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
So we're back, another episode, and we have our esteemed friend and guest, Matt, here.
Welcome, Matt.
And yeah, welcome, Matt. We've been trying to line this up for a while, so glad we could, get this in at the end of the year. However, I think this episode will probably be airing next year in 2024.
Actually?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to be leaving town, and this editing studio is not really going to be, Anyway, so...
Oh yeah, I guess it is December.
Yeah,
it's
like, wait, end of the semester. Yeah. Welcome back, Matt, because actually, even though it's your first time on the show, you used to be a student here.
Oh, yeah.
For
a long time.
And you haven't been back in this library in a while, right? Or you said you have a card.
Yeah, but I haven't seen like all the new stuff.
Yeah, nice.
And then the new stuff going in back there.
Yeah, that's completely new. Yeah,
right. That was pretty wild.
The new stuff. All right, so what? You two met at my birthday a couple months ago.
Yeah, might as well. That was good.
And then Matt and I met about 7 years ago. I think at a Halloween party.
Yes.
No
so
an infamous Halloween party.
An infamous Halloween party. It was a good time.
Do tell.
Why was it infamous? I guess just.
Oh, it was your first year as a grad student.
True.
And I was an undergrad, but I was y'all's age.
Right.
So I was there, and I don't know how it happened, but at some point, like a large group of undergrads showed up, and not a small number of them were students under the grad students.
Okay.
Who were having their first initial hurrah in their first year on Halloween. Yeah. Which made things
awkward, tense, perhaps. Spicy, some might say.
So.
Okay, because you're right. It is funny to think that. Was that your last year of undergrad? It was, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, because I think the next year, my second year, we were in the poetry class.
I was the first year.
Yeah.
Next, yeah.
So.
And I think somebody's table got broke somehow, but I wasn't there for that.
That's like some Bill's Mafia stuff right there. Breaking tables.
You're right. It's funny to think about you being our age and you were like a senior, and then it's like, oh yeah, Matt's here, whatever.
Super senior.
Right. Yeah. But just and then the other undergraduates who are like 19 to 22 years old are like, yeah, they shouldn't be here. Like this is a grad student party. Like some of us.
They were named.
I don't know. There were definitely undergrads. They were I don't know what their age was.
Right.
But nobody invited them, so it's kind of like a mystery.
They spawned in.
Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, that's interesting. So anyway, yeah, we go back to grad school is how we met. Here, UNCW.
Creative writing program.
So we know you're a creative writer now, and anything else you'd like to share with us? I feel like you have an interesting bio, so if you want to categorize yourself in whatever ways, I'm always curious.
It's funny that one of the things I brought is specifically not doing that. So I came through the undergrad and graduate program here at UNCW as for poetry and publishing. I originally came for fiction and film, and then realized that I didn't know shit about film, and also that, at least at the time, I don't know what it is now, there wasn't a whole lot of hands-on, it was a whole lot of film theory, and so I dug in more with writing than I did that. Fast forward 10 years or so. It took me a while to get through undergrad because I really embellished the whole college experience when I first got here and was away from home for the first time. So there was a brief period of realignment that had to be done before I came back to finish my undergrad, and then inherently started grad program immediately after where I met Brian. So in that time, I was trained as a poet. I've had a couple things published, nothing crazy yet. I do other writing, but that also hasn't seen publication at the moment, but there are some little projects that I'm pittering around with. Probably what most people know me by is I'm a musician and singer specifically for the local rock band Open Wire, which, shameless plug, we just put out our first vinyl album. Ooh. It's our third album, but
that's a tight album cover.
It's called Silver Tongue. It's got, this awesome
was gonna say
like hot rod art that my brother did for us, which is amazing. And then I'm just gonna shamelessly plug how pretty this is. It's got the lyric sheet right here.
Love it.
You know, and then it's gorgeous.
Woo!
Dang, that's
Hot
pretty.
wax.
Wow.
Hot wax.
You can't really see it in this thing because there's not a light behind it, but it's got this like nebulous swirl behind
Oh
it.
yeah,
which is
that's
great.
beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And all of them they're all like that design, but all of them are a little bit different, which is great. And they're for sale on our website and also every record shop in Wilmington. So
Yellow
love it.
dogs.
I think in so, but I know that they're in School Kids. I know they're in Modern Legend. I know they're in Gravity. They're at Record Bar on Leander.
Okay.
My bass player handled doing all the business stuff on that. So
Handle the distribution.
he did.
Love it.
He crushed it. So yeah, that's what I'm probably more known for is raging around on stage. I highly recommend checking it out. Obviously, I want the plays. Not that we make any money off Spotify, but I hope you enjoy it. It's on all of like the streaming services. It's available for purchase. You know, if you're a fan of like sort of like solo Ozzy Osbourne stuff, or like Velvet Revolver, Guns N' Roses, like Stone Temple Pilots, like things like that, then you'll probably dig it. So, but yeah.
Yo, I wanted to tell you, this morning driving around, I heard a song called 99 Shades of Crazy.
Yeah.
You know it?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Oh god, what is that? Is that Alt J? No.
JJ Gray?
JJ Gray, yeah.
And
the
then
Mofro.
maybe
yeah.
right, Mofro.
Yeah.
I was like some other name, I can't remember, but yeah, JJ Gray. So I love that you know it, because it was a funny little song.
Yeah.
It was like soulful, and like it sounds kind of 70s classic old, but I don't think it's that old.
Yeah, it came out maybe 2000s, 2010, early 2010s.
Okay, so
It's not brand new, but it's not like a classic rock song.
right, or Motown or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has those elements of like Motown and like that classic 70s, and it's like the 99 shades of crazy, crazy. And it's got like the backup singers and everything.
Right.
Like
Maybe some organ, I'm not sure. Like,
probably, yeah. And it's one of those songs that would like fit really well with like on a playlist with like Nathaniel Rateliff or like JD McPherson or something like that, you know. So, but yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah. All right, so we got Matt the Poet, Matt the Rock Star, and then to tickle Jackson's fancy here, I think Matt the Fisherman and Matt the Waterman has to be discussed as well.
All right, well, I am born and raised in North Carolina, so I was also raised by a sportsman. My father was a hunter and fisherman and was always like a very responsible hunter-fisherman. There was never hunting for sport. Hunting and fishing was always, you know, for food and with respect, and, you know, you use everything you can measure and protect the habitat and don't litter and things like that, which, you know, I really appreciate him instilling that. And, you know, I feel like I won't go into it, but I'm just going to touch on it. I feel like there's a weird, like, political point where there's like a crossover there, where it's like, because traditionally, like, hunters and fishermen tend to be more conservative than people who aren't. But there's like a crossover with like environmentalism there that I have always appreciated and like stuck really hard to. For me, I enjoy hunting, but I enjoy fishing a lot more. Mainly because I like being on the water a lot more. I've always enjoyed fishing. I grew up in the Piedmont, like out on the Yadkin River, and so it's all that sort of like deep, muddy water, and it's got a lot of like weird currents and like sinkholes and cottonmouths. You know, you don't have to worry about like big reptiles or fish coming at you, but there are snakes. Yeah, when I came down here, I started fishing in the intercoastal and out on the ocean, and I'm fortunate enough to have a couple friends, namely my drummer, who is lucky enough to have a boat, and so we go out fishing, you know, offshore, not deep sea, but offshore.
That's Phil, right?
Yeah, you can give a shout out.
Shout out, Phil.
You know, I'm fortunate enough to know him, and he's fortunate enough to have that luxury, I guess. And so we get to go out and, you know, fish for our own food, you know, and it's one of those things where it's like I don't know, there's like a certain responsibility, I guess, or like satisfaction. I don't know, like relief knowing that it's like this food has only been processed by me. Like I know where it's been at every stage of this.
Yeah.
You know, it was locally sourced. It's not, dependent on truckers to bring it all over the place. Plus, like commercial fishing, well, not really commercial fishing, industrial fishing. Because commercial fishing is more like your charter boats and stuff, like people you pay to take out on like a boat that's like maybe 30 to 40 feet long or something like that. And they take you out and they take you deep sea. Well, not really deep sea. Most people don't go deep sea. They go offshore and they go fishing, and you do that, or they do their own fishing and bring it back and sell it to local markets. But industrial fishing is like when you've got these like barges that are like the size of like oil rigs with like drag nets that are miles and miles long, and that in itself is bad enough for the environment, but specifically out in the South Pacific, there's a lot of, outside of the environmental aspects of it, there's a lot of human rights violations, like either extremely poor work environments or like straight out slavery. Like people who come from like very poor villages in like Laos and Cambodia, if I'm remembering correctly, or Thailand, and they end up coming to one of these like South Pacific countries, and they'll get shanghaied or blackmailed into working on a fishing boat, and then that fishing boat doesn't come back to shore for 4 years.
Wow.
And there's been reports of like, people, like losing like fingers and limbs, people dying out there, and they either just get cast off at sea unceremoniously or put in the freezer with the fish. So if you look at the little tag on your fish that you're buying and it's from the South Pacific, I would think twice about it. I generally try to buy, if I'm buying like industrialized fish from like the supermarket, I try to buy stuff that's marked as at least Atlantic. It doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't have those issues, but we don't know for sure that it does. Like there's a high chance that has happened somewhere in the supply chain for South Pacific fish. Like if it's on the packaging, there's a high chance. And besides that, it's just been kind of frozen and maybe thawed out and refrozen and thawed out and refrozen a few times, getting from literally the other side of the planet to us.
Yeah, certainly the frozen fish.
And that's like 13,000 miles of travel on boats, planes, and or trucks. So anyway, that all goes to say it's like going and getting your own fish. That you can either stock up in the freezer or give out to other people, or just go get what you need. Like one fish is a meal for the day.
Right. Yeah.
And it's relaxing and exciting, and
it is.
Yeah. So I love that you are like, catch your own food, process my own fish, do that, because from my understanding, that's quite the opposite of Jackson, who does not eat his catch. And do you eat seafood at all?
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay.
No, I tend to stick to red meat, things like that. I'm not a fish eater. I do it for the sport, but I will, like, if it's legal size and there's someone around, I'll give it away to them. Like the other day I was trout fishing, and there was some families cleaning fish, so I was like, you guys want these? And they're like, oh yeah. So I mean, I give it away when I can. I also do a lot of shark fishing, so I will keep it as bait too if I need it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, it all goes to use.
Yeah. So you mostly just do catch and release?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's fine.
I don't just like I've seen some people just kind of like kill the fish and then just let it sit there. I'm like, whoa, let's not do that.
Yeah. Like I grew up, like there's like people, not really people that my family associated with, but people that we knew about who would just like, they were trophy hunters. They would go like deer hunting, like just to have something taxidermied.
Oh, really?
And like that's it. Like they didn't care.
They didn't even like the venison.
Some people are like that, man. And that's like, especially with something like a deer. Like you don't normally pull in a fish this big, but like with a deer, like that's like 100 pounds of meat.
It's a lot of,
like think about, I think like the average pound of beef is what, like somewhere between like $6 and $10, depending on where you're buying it from.
Right. Yeah.
So imagine 100 of those. They cost 30 cents for a bullet.
Yeah. Right.
And then a few hours of cleaning. That's far better grade of meat.
Yeah.
And then like, but yeah, That's fine though. Like I have no with fishing. Like that's one of those things where luckily, because of like the anatomical structure of fish, especially sharks, because they're tough as hell. You know, they're one of those things that you can just fish and throw them right back, and they'll be fine. Like they get punctured literally all the time and just live through it. Like they're like, I mean, and to think, I mean, like most of those fish haven't really changed in like a few million years.
Yeah,
like they're
right.
already like adapted to about like their peak, you know, like I was reading a thing recently, like sharks, for example, are like older than a lot of celestial entities.
Oh wow.
Like the North
wow.
Star, Sirius, the dog star, which is what we have used for not eons, but centuries as like our primary navigation beacon on the ocean. The North Star is younger than sharks.
Dang. Like megalodons.
Like, I mean, just even like great whites and like makos and bull sharks, like they haven't changed. Like they were the same thing when there was dinosaurs out here.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah,
You
because
know?
you're right. You think about the world just being a ball of water, and then you know the land formations, but it's like fish are probably older than any kind of land.
Someone had to run the water.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like they're really adaptable. Plus, I mean, it's a really fun sport, and you know, like it's when you get something on and like the lines,
Oh,
you
it's
know,
the best feeling.
oh man,
That rush, oh man, I
Yeah.
tell you what.
do you do a lot of pier fishing, or you normally?
I do a lot of pier fishing. Curie Beach Pier is,
Okay.
I used to work there, so I would go out
Oh,
there.
nice.
And then beach fishing from there, and then I'll pond hop, like bass fish. Just anywhere there's water, I'll try and get to it.
Nice. There's supposed to be a really nice bass tournament out of White Lake that I've been meaning
Really?
to check out. Yeah, it's
No
about
way.
like an hour northwest
Yeah.
ish. It's like I think it's a little bit north of Fayetteville, I think.
Oh, you know, I have heard of like up that way. They do have a lot of different competitions.
Yeah, they do marathons and triathlons there too. So like sometimes you'll swim across the lake too, which is something I've been looking at. Which it's a inland enough lake that I'm not.
No alligators. And
No
stuff.
alligators.
That's good.
It's like you have to get to a certain elevation and then you don't have to worry about it. Plus,
Okay.
White Lake isn't attached to the river, so
Right.
That's where the alligators mainly hang out.
well, that's where they get into the lakes at. Like Waccamaw has like gators because like the river is close enough, and like there's so much swamp land out there. But
Right.
when you're going up towards like Fayetteville, you're going up in elevation, like because you're getting into like the beginnings of the Uwaris and the Piedmont, because that's like up there close to where like Raven Rock National or State Park is.
Oh, and you know what? I just realized I'm mistaken. I was thinking Jacksonville, not Fayetteville. So I was thinking northeast, but you're talking northwest.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Inland.
Inland. Yeah. No, and I like you just educated me. Like, oh yeah, like gators is like coastal lakes and swamps and rivers, and it's like it's not going to be no mountain gators really.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a little too cold for them. Well, I think it's too. Well, elevation is one. It'd be hard for them to get up there.
Yeah.
And there's not enough.
With
I
their
don't think there's
little
enough
legs.
prey. Also, I think it would probably be too cold for them to consistently
Possibly.
stay.
Yeah. If they're cold blooded, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like I know here, like in the winter, like there's been like they've been shown in like in the newspaper where like in the Green Swamp when like it iced over like 2 years ago or something like that. It's like they showed like the alligators, they'll put their snouts above the water and they'll like go into like a suspended animation and just let the ice like freeze around them, and they just leave their nose above the water so they can breathe.
For how long?
I don't know, but like it's been in like the Star News, like it was like
wow.
in one of the main
Is what they
things.
need to eat and stuff.
Well, I mean, reptile, like those big gators, like they'll eat like a big meal, like, you know, like a deer or, I don't know, like a dog or, you know, whatever gets close enough to
Couple
the
chickens.
water, right? And then they won't eat for days, weeks,
That's crazy.
you know? So, I mean, I imagine they could last a while. I mean, not consistently. I'm sure if the environment was consistently like that, I'd be wanting to move out, but
Yeah.
every now and then it's not that bad.
Nature
So-
finds a way.
Yeah. I mean, gators are another one of those things, like they haven't really needed to adapt.
They've been around a while.
Yeah, so,
Same formation.
yeah.
They're crazy.
Nature finds a way.
It will prevail.
All right. So we did poetry, some music, some
Fishing.
fishing, some nature talk. I'm really digging this. but I want to take it back to like the human side,
Okay.
the social, society, cultural side. And I think one thing also we have to celebrate about Matt is Matt the host. Matt the host has thrown some great parties or shindigs or whatever you might want to call them. But yeah, talk about Halloween parties that you didn't host when we first met. You've hosted some great Halloween parties since then, other occasions. So I want to hear about Matt the host a little bit.
Well, it kind of goes back to when I was talking about me embellishing the college experience when I was younger. I was basically in a group of people that like we just kind of partied constantly. And at some point we had a party house very close to campus that we'd just get off work and like the doors were locked, but somehow people had found their way into the house and were just already partying. And it wasn't anything like crazy, like no one was doing like hard drugs that at least that I'm aware of. You know, in the house it's just people like, you know, just drinking beers and stuff and like playing beer pong and stuff. Maybe starting a little fire out in the little fire pit we had outside, but
Nice.
you know, so not really sure how they got in. Maybe they just came up the drains like the rest of the bugs. But like, I got really used to hosting and getting used to sort of managing a large group of people, which is probably also what has helped me as like a front man in a band. Is like when you're sort of running the show, like you get kind of used to addressing people and sort of thinking about things and how things are going to go and leaving enough leeway for you know organic an organic flow, right? Like it's not like a schedule or an itinerary, but you get like enough little ideas, right? And I used to live, so I've thrown a few parties, and I generally like to not have a party like constantly, but like maybe like 2 a year, like seasonal. I do really love my Halloween hootenannies, and I like getting creative with them, you know, some sort of theme. And, you know, just really creating a space where people can like let loose and be safe. We don't have to worry about anyone that's too young showing up, you know, but also like, you know, making sure that, you know, everyone's gonna have a good time because there's no like questionable, you know, characters coming around, you know, and really giving people a chance to just like, if they really want to let loose, you know, they can. I mean, you can't, you know, just party hardy all the time, but you know, if you want to let loose one night, you can have like a safe space for it.
Right.
So in that, you know, always try to have like nice music and like, if there's any tip that I can give anybody is that if you're going to have food, use fruits and vegetables and forget the chips. Because chips are salty and it makes people thirsty, and there's a good chance you're not going to remember to drink water.
Right.
But everyone will munch on whatever's in front of them.
Right.
So provide them with things that have nutrients and hydration.
That's incredible.
That's smart.
That is such a party hack. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Fruits and veggies, don't go too salty to
Veggie
make people
plates.
thirstier. Wow.
Yeah.
Nutrients and hydration.
Also noticed there was a significantly lower chance of people like puking or like from that because like they're like refilling themselves.
Right.
You know, so I highly recommend that. And then other than that, I mean, it's really just about, you know, sort of reading the room and not like, you know, not micromanaging things. You know, if people want to change the playlist, let them, as long as it's, you know, I don't know, not putting on like hate speech or something like that.
Right. Or,
you know,
or punching out the DJ.
Yeah, you know,
You gotta respect the DJ.
Yeah, or just get a DJ. I remember one year I had a playlist because I like really kooky, silly Halloween music and not like dance music. But that's not what everyone wanted to do, and I got frustrated because they kept changing the playlist. And so the next year I was like, I'm just gonna get a DJ, and I found one who has now become like the best DJ definitely in town, probably on this side of the state. Shout out Caleb. And he was, you know, nice enough to do it for free that year, but I don't think that'll ever happen again.
Probably not, but
to his credit,
Yeah.
he should be paid. He's
Right.
I just said he's the best in this side of the state. He should be paid.
right. Glad it's an enterprise for him.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
So, but yeah, you just kind of let the party move and just kind of like run damage control. You know, keep checking in on people, and you know.
I love it. Go with the flow, keep it a safe space, but also like allowing people to have that outlet. I like that you mentioned that of like we do need to I don't want to say like exercise the demons, but there is that kind of like certain side of humanity that's like we need to be social, we need to be spicy and interactive, and you know we need to dance, we need to celebrate.
Yeah. And it's like so not everyone, wants to or should, be getting like hammered regularly, but like if you don't want to have to worry, it's like, especially like, cause I always try to keep places for people to sleep if they need to, like always encourage people to either Uber or that if they need to stay, then they can,
Right.
I love waking up and making breakfast for people, so like, I'm happy to do that. And just sort of creating that sort of safe space, especially, I'm just going to say it, like it's really important that your female guests feel very comfortable where you're at.
Right.
Because it's not going to be a good party otherwise, and like I feel like we owe them that.
Yeah, definitely.
They have to deal with enough shit on their day-to-day life that they should be able to be with their friends and not have to worry about being accosted or worse.
Right, yeah.
So there's that. And then the last thing is just sort of clear off the schedule, like start it like really early, especially as you're getting older. Like if you're having a nighttime party, start it at like 6, because there's probably people with kids who would love to come by.
Right, yeah.
Whose bedtime is at like 7
Right,
or 7:30. And a lot of times, especially on like holiday weekends, like a lot of people are going to be bouncing around anyway, and it's an easier way that a lot of times people would love to come do something, but they've already committed to doing something. Or if you're like me and you have a ton of musician friends, they're probably playing somewhere.
Right.
So it just gives everyone more of a time to like swing through if they get the chance. So
also, I like about that a long time for a party is that you generally have like different phases where it's like, oh, this was like 6 to 9 or 6 to 10, and it's like, oh, this was like later but around midnight, and then it's like, oh, and then the late crowd showed up or whatever. The closers.
Yeah, and it's a good way of not having too many people at one time.
Right. Yeah.
If you only got like a set time for like 3 hours and you invited, 100 people, that's a lot to have in 3 hours. But if your party lasts technically 6 to 8 hours and no more than 15 people are around at any point in time, that's just a dinner party.
Yeah, that's the flow. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so one thing I want to revisit there with the whole kind of like, I don't want to say, again, it's not about like the darker side of humanity necessarily, but thinking about alcohol and just like drugs and like intoxicants. It's like, sometimes it is necessary to like take in a little bit of poison, you with me? Because like I've come to the thought the past few years, I guess, that like alcohol is poison, but like I still drink alcohol every now and again, but I'm much different than I was in my late teens and early 20s, to where it's like, oh yeah, like let's get wasted. Like the purpose of tonight is to drink and consume as much alcohol as possible.
I think for me, I don't think of it that way personally, and I would say that I think it's important to acknowledge that too much alcohol is poison, but I don't think it's healthy to think of it as poison in general.
Okay.
And I say that because not that I need this poison, because for one, I think that's already an unhealthy precedent of saying that I need it at all.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, because what you actually need is, or I think when most people say that, right, is what they actually need is something to take the edge off, something to let them relax, something to sort of like let things sort of slow down, and sort of like take a little bit of inhibition off the shelf, like maybe not too much, but just like a little bit. But also like something that I've noticed with the onset of like the zero alcohol beers is they work just as well as regular beer, because it's all about being in the setting,
right?
And you don't have to actually be imbibing,
right?
Especially like when you've sort of been, when you come from a culture where you have had alcohol and been drinking, you know, just the taste of it triggers all of those things already without the actual alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And then also just like the ritual of like having a can or a bottle. One of my favorite party tricks is to drink a beer and then refill that container with water. So that way it just looks like I'm still drinking, but it's like I'm hydrating.
I'm hydrating, folks.
But yeah, Jackson pretty famously, you didn't drink before you're 21, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm curious like your right. I'm curious about your mindset because you were pretty strict about it.
Yeah,
like
I never had. I just growing up, I never wanted to break the law like that, or just in general. But I don't know. I just never. And even after being 21, I don't really find it that fun. Like, and I tell people. It's like, why do you want to wake up with a headache? Like, I mean, it just sounds miserable. It's like, I'd rather, I've also been fortunate enough in life that I get high on life. Like, I can have a good time, like, whatever I'm doing. Like, I don't have to have external things to make me happy or relaxed. I just enjoy the moment. So, I don't know, I never needed the extra things. Like, yeah, I have beers, when I go out and stuff, just to sip because it's thirst quenching, but like, I've never needed to feel buzzed. And I mean, I have, like, don't get me wrong, I've, had a couple.
you've had a few headaches.
Yeah, a couple headaches, but.
It's not a goal.
No.
Right. No, and I think that's an extremely healthy way to look at it too, because I feel like, well, I have a question for you, but I want to make a point before I forget it. Is I think that there's also like a transition, because I've noticed that there's been some reports where it's like some bars and music venues actually are having to kind of rethink their business plan because Gen Z doesn't drink as much as like millennials or Gen X does.
Right.
Which is ultimately great for them.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much for like whatever company that is like providing, or who is selling those drinks. But so there's that, but there's also been the move towards like the cocktail industry, which has like come back with like I don't want to say a vengeance, but with a fervor that hasn't really been seen since like our grandparents or great grandparents times, like since the middle of the century. Like cocktails fell off the map for like 50 years and then just suddenly sprung back up, and it's more focused on like taste and palate and small amounts of alcohol, rather than how many beers can I shotgun?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of that like fraternity blackout sort of thought. The other question I want to ask you though was, did you come from a dry household?
I mean, no, no, they have wine.
Yeah, so I mean, like your parents like drank periodically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, I have a theory, and I'm pretty sure that I have not researched this, but I would wager that more or less, because this is the way that I've heard about it in Europe as well, is like people who aren't raised with it as a taboo don't feel the need to seek it out.
Okay, yeah.
And for me, I grew up in a dry household and I was often told what not to do, and not why. Just don't do it, or I was given a legal or religious reason why I shouldn't do it,
Right.
Which wasn't good enough for me.
Right.
And typically, the things I was told not to do were the things that I looked to do first.
Right, yeah.
And just like sort of active rebellion, but I was also just that. I was one of those kids, and I was like actively rebelling against my family pretty much every chance I had. Whereas, and I'm pretty sure that's why, like, whenever I hit college, like, I just like, I came from a town that had one bar that was a motorcycle club bar.
Yeah.
That's it. Nowhere else sold alcohol, period.
Wow.
Or not that I remember in any restaurants or anything.
Yeah.
Not until like an Applebee's showed up, and then I came to Wilmington, like in the height of the 2000s, when Front Street, like on a Friday night, was just as busy as Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so, and there was like basically every place that is a boutique or a law office now was a bar or a club at some point in the 2000s.
Wow.
That's kind of tight.
And so like, and also we didn't have these other districts like we do now. So it was,
Right.
you went to Riceville Beach, Carolina Beach, Reggie's, or downtown.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all there was. There wasn't bars anywhere else.
That's
Well,
wild.
aside from a couple little neighborhood bars here and there, but that's not where like the youngins went,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. All right. So we're getting close to time. I feel like we should start with a little marshmallow question.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So I'll start with that. So how do you like your marshmallows? I know you've been around a few campfires, so.
I like them crispy, almost a little burned, like almost charred.
Almost.
You're getting there. You're getting there.
You're getting there.
We'll work on that.
Do you like s'mores or?
Not as much. I mean, like I'll take one, but I've never been big on sweets.
Okay.
Like I don't like candy. I don't like a lot of desserts. Anything that's too sugary,
Okay.
I don't really like. Like I don't drink sodas. I don't put sugar in my coffee.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Well, given all that, what, Matt, do you think is the meaning of life?
The closest thing that I think I can come to that is I think that it's important to be a living being and not just a being living.
I like that.
You know, there is perhaps a completely infinite amount of time that exists in this universe in multiple directions,
Yeah.
the crystalline structure of time, but we can only experience a very small portion of it.
Right.
And so I think it's important to make sure that we're not just meat sacks pushing air in and out, you know, for 60 to 80 years, and actually do things that make us happy, as long as they don't, you know, make other people worse off.
That's amazing. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
That's our time, y'all. Take care.